New here at 10 o'clock, Prisma Health is expanding services at its breast cancer prevention clinic. Well, they have a new process using mammogram data to identify women who are at a high risk of breast cancer.
Now, Fox Carolina's Kennedi Harris spoke with clinic leaders today. And Kennedi, how does this all work?
Well, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. It's a statistic that Prisma Health says hasn't changed in decades. That's the motivation behind this new process, reducing a patient's risk in order to avoid future diagnosis.
It has caught quite a few things, so I'm thankful for it.
Roshika Coleman is a high-risk breast cancer patient. She knew about her family's history but never considered what that might mean for her.
Until I was probably around 25, I started having biopsies. They were all benign, so I never really thought that anything like that would come about.
After she discovered a lump in March, she went to Prisma Health's breast cancer prevention clinic for testing. They didn't find cancer, but they found cancerous cells.
I think the scariest part was the unknown. And then after the knowing still is the uncertainty of my future.
She had a lumpectomy. Now she receives treatment to prevent the worst.
Our anticipation and hope is that we can reduce that incidence of breast cancer significantly.
The prevention clinic aims to identify high-risk patients early on and offer prevention methods. Anything from simple lifestyle changes to medication. Doctors use mammogram scans, medical history, family history, biopsy results, and other information to calculate a score. Next, they'll rank it using what's called the Gale model to determine a patient's risk.
A normal mammogram is not enough. What is your Gale score?
Coleman says it saved her from the unthinkable.
Pay attention to your body because you know it best. Early prevention, it really does save your life.
Now, of course, early prevention techniques won't prevent breast cancer in all cases, but Dr. Stevenson says research shows it could reduce future diagnosis by 50%.